For those of you listening, I know what I'm saying sounded a little, well, you know what? See, the thing is, I get a lot of Trinitarian comments. I'm sure that doesn't surprise you guys. And I'm talking about people who I get these comments from, who I've gotten those same comments from 10 years ago. I'm not talking about someone who just maybe I've never talked to, and they posted a comment, and it's not like if I see a Trinitarian comment, I'm like, I get frustrated every time. It's when I see them from people I've already dealt with over a long period of time, or who've read my writings, or who've been involved for 10 or more years. That's what gets me a little frustrated, because it's sad. I don't know, frustrated. I guess frustrated because I can't understand why they don't move on. And I can only surmise at this point that they just don't believe. They want to believe, and they seem like they believe because they're arguing for a view of God. But the fact that they're still arguing over the exact same issues after 10 years. Well, what does the scripture say? They're always learning and never able to come to a knowledge. I mean, so does that text apply to those people or not? How can you be arguing over something for 10 years and claim to still believe it? Or you're just out there trying to help other people because you believe so strongly in it that if just you talk to them, they're going to be convinced? That's vanity. It's actually very easy for most people to understand what they're reading. It's just when people don't really believe their own teachings, they don't believe other people can believe them on their own unless they tell them. You see, so it's really a lack of their own faith that makes them think they have to keep arguing about these things. At least that's how I see it. Because I don't think you're helping anybody by continuously arguing about something without a resolution that is simple and makes sense. They just make it more and more complicated. And so by the time anyone even starts to have an interest in the issue, it's so far beyond what they're able to evaluate, right? I mean, how many people can jump into a discussion and just start evaluating Greek grammar? Almost no one. So it's not even fair to most people. And yet these Trinitarians and anti-Trinitarians run around, love to throw out their knowledge. I mean, I could do that if I wanted to, right? Anytime I wanted. So if I don't do that, and I'm the one who has taken the lead in promoting what I think is the correct view of Jah and Jesus, at least for a decade or more, well, then you should listen to what I'm telling you now. Okay? You don't need to keep doing that. It's obvious it doesn't produce the same value that once you've established your position and allowing it to remain does, and give people an opportunity to review and choose. You don't have to keep restating it, is what I'm saying. You don't have to keep representing what you've already presented. Did Jesus do that? No. He would present it once, make a comment or respond, and that was it. He was out of there, on to the people, on to promoting Jah, helping his students. He didn't just chase after the scribes and Pharisees and say, what about this text? What about this text? So in any case, I just really want to encourage you all not to get caught in those traps. Those are traps. They're designed to trap you in conversation with another supposed Christian and argue. Where does the Bible tell us to do that? Where does the Bible tell us to argue with our brothers about the metaphysics of God? It's been invented to distract and divide us, and it's worked. So I say we stop falling victim to that. Why are we allowing this to continue to divide and disrupt our ministry? I mean, most of this whole show is about that, but I'm doing it for a purpose. I'm trying to incite you, I'm trying to inspire, incite you, folks, to take what I say seriously so that it doesn't keep happening. So that our discussion can more so revolve around the truth of God, the love of God, the children of God, and Jesus as the Christ. Isn't that the most important thing? So no, don't worry, Justin Julius. The Psalm 22 thing is good because that helps us to better understand the evidence we have for Jesus as the Messiah. I'm talking about the Trinitarian metaphysics and things that we can't go to the text and figure out and say, oh, okay, this means that and this, that. These are metaphysics that aren't anywhere presented to us in the Bible. And to the extent that metaphysics are presented in the Bible, they contradict the Trinity, right? Hebrews 1:3 says Jesus is the character of God's being, the copy, the imprint. Okay, well, metaphysically, that's what they're telling us, that Jesus was imprinted into existence by God as a copy of God's nature, right? You can't be a copy of something and eternally exist. Well, one's got to be the copy and one's the original. So we can understand metaphysics to the extent that the Bible tells us certain things happened, but no one can really explain the metaphysics involved in the actual imprinting of Jesus into existence as the copy of God's being. So we should just leave it at that, right? You quote Hebrews 1:3, Jesus the Son is the copy of God's being. Simple. Done. Done and done. You don't need to go beyond that because the text doesn't go beyond that. Anything beyond that, you don't even need to take seriously. The text says all you need to know. And if it's not said in the text or another text, why are we talking about it? We're just speculating about things that will likely undo or confuse the meaning of the text, because we're talking about things that the text doesn't talk about. So I want to encourage you all to focus on these more important things. When was the last time you convinced a Trinitarian and got them to stay as a Christian but not believe the Trinity? Right? They're confessing Jesus as the Christ. Let them be. Try to avoid them. They're not your primary target in the sense of Christian ministry. They're already confessing Jesus as the Christ. Whether they're doing so rightly or wrongly, they're going to be held accountable. See, they're making that confession. You need to let them be and find those who have yet to confess. They're the ones in need. They're the ones who really need your help, not Trinitarians. They're the least of who need help because they have the text and they already promote Jesus as the Christ, even if it's not the same as we do. That's not our problem. That's their problem. Let's not make it our problem. Let's try to help people with the simple message that we have and that is more likely going to get them to have faith. Belief based on good reasons. Trinitarian metaphysics are not good reasons.